Okay. Okay.
We're live.
Stephen Berkson, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And the June 3rd, 2024 meeting of the Oregon Country Fair Board of Directors will come to order. And we'll begin with announcements. Anyone who has an announcement, please raise your hand in chat. We're on announcements. Stephen Dyerkoff.
This is just a quick announcement. Reminder to folks that advisory petitions must be submitted by July 31st if they're to be certified and put on the ballot this fall. Thanks.
Thank you. John Steinhardt.
Yeah, I want to swap my board of directors hat for my other volunteers hat for a moment. As many of you probably know, I was asked to create the Sunshine database system this year, and I know the rollout has had its challenges. Change is hard. I really want to thank the vast majority of our FAIR family who's been very gracious and supportive, even when on the phone with me in the middle of the night to track down a bug. That's really what I love about our community. You might think this thing is a failure if you're listening to the handful of folks spouting vitriol on Facebook, but I'm really glad they're not representative of who we are and suggest maybe they take their attitude elsewhere and start their own misery festival. So thanks again to most of you, and be aware that we're working hard to improve things, and I really appreciate your support.
Thank you. AJ.
Yeah, so I want to announce that the board of directors had two closed sessions. One was a training and one was a work session for us. And no decisions were made in that meeting, in either one of those meetings.
Thank you. Are there any other announcements? Last call for announcements. Okay.
Arna put up her hand. I think she might be having trouble typing into the chat box.
Well, you're muted, Arna. Go ahead.
I lowered my hand. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. And then I was asked to make a brief announcement. Just basically, as we get into business tonight, let's all try to focus on the topic that's on the floor and avoid introducing distractions. Our goal is simply to treat each other with respect and civility. I see no other announcements. We're going to move on to minutes from the May 6th, 2024. Is there any objection or motion to amend those minutes from the May 6th, 2024 board meeting? I see a hand from John Alexander. Are you going to be able to, do I need to keep an eye on you, or you're not going to be able to put your hand up in chat? You're muted.
I will be able to, but it's going to take a little coordination on my part that I did not just have then.
Okay.
I have a slight change to make in the motion. Oh boy, I got on late tonight. And there were some, and it was regarding a comment that Hall had made at the last minute that we would like to amend, and I'm trying to pull it up right now. I apologize that I was not ready for this. Can we come back to this, or is that too much?
Is there any objection to doing member comments and then coming back to this?
Arna might have it.
Yeah, Arna, you got to unmute. Arna, you're muted.
Okay, I have it here, though. I actually have it. be amended. So here's I apologize. Excuse me, everybody, and all you out there in Fairlane. I would like to strike in the minutes a part that says Hall : in favor ... and that paragraph to be changed with, and I'm happy to send this. I'll log on. I've put this in the chat, but Hall Stort Lovell supports the passage of the EDIB motion in spite of concerns around the first two work tasks. She thinks the group should focus first on understanding issues and developing goals so that we don't repeat past mistakes. She looks forward to participation in the new work group. Hall had provided that in detail to the minute takers, and the minute takers were looking for brevity, and I appreciate that. And our recording secretary and our secretary, so no slight on them, but the Hall would prefer the full detail of her comment reflected in the minutes.
I'll second that.
Okay, moved by John Alexander and seconded by Arna Shaw. And I would say, as we get into this, if there's any discussion at all on it, the discussion is simply about whether to make this change about minutes, not about whether we're using summary minutes or how minutes are derived. And also that in a change like this, as long as it's not extremely long and as long as it doesn't attempt to rewrite history, in summary minutes, it's traditionally, in most organizations, it's customary to grant the request unless it's demonstrably false. Is there any member discussion on this minutes change? Any member discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll go to the board. Is there any board discussion on this minutes change? Is there any objection to this minutes change? Lisa.
And I think that it was entered into the text. So there it is. And thanks to Hall. That's my only discussion for reaching out to us. Sorry, I should have raised my hand.
Lisa.
I have no objection. I just want to comment that I heard Hall's comments at that meeting, and I think that this amendment to the minutes reflects what I understood that she said, and I think that it is concise, and so I have no issue with it.
Thank you. Is there any further board discussion on this change to the minutes? Last call. Hearing none, no one has spoke against it. Is there any objection to this amendment to the minutes? Last call. Is there anyone who objects to this amendment to the minutes? Seeing none, it's approved by unanimous consent. We're back to the minutes as amended. Is there any further discussion on the minutes? By anyone, board or membership? Last call. Seeing none, is there any objection to adopting the minutes as amended? Last call. Is there any objection to adopting the minutes as amended? Seeing none, the minutes are adopted by unanimous consent as amended. I'll remind anyone, if you're not on the board or a staff person, please don't have your video on. We're going to go to agenda review. I see Arna, correct, for agenda review?
Yeah. After speaking with AJ and Stephen Dyerkoff, we would like to rearrange the agenda in terms of how we're voting on the bylaws amendments. And we would like to change the order of those to do number one first, which is the change in the method of selecting directors. That stays the same. Then we'd like to go to change the voting participation requirement which is the to count voting in any election. Then go. Oh, wait, I said that wrong. I'm sorry. Go back. Keep number one in its place as number 2, do the age one. Whether we're voting, members can vote at 16. Number 3 would be when the board clarify the effective beginning of terms of newly elected directors. Sorry, I don't have this written up really clearly. Number 4 would then be the same as the number 4 that we have here. And number 5 would be the same 5 that we have here.
So-
Percentage of voters.
So I'm sorry, Arna, that shows no change in the agenda for me. That's exactly what I have.
Oh, it got changed already. Sorry, never mind.
Okay, moving
If I-
right on.
If I may, for just a second, Arno was correct in the first place. The participating in any election counts would be the second item. That's the biggest change we made. That was our conversation.
Oh, okay. So is that what you want, Stephen?
Yeah, so number 1, and then the participation in any election, and then the age limit.
Then
and
the age.
then the beginning of terms and.
Okay, so hold on.
Okay, so my list, so I'm sorry, my list was correct. I was reading it wrong. I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared for this.
So
So
let
it's
me hold on, because we had just had a conversation. Number 1 is the changing method of selecting directors. Number 2 is which motion based on what's written on the agenda. Just
It's number 4 as what would be listed on the agenda, change the voting participation requirement.
that you want to make number 2.
Yes.
And then the rest go in the order that they currently are in after that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Is there
Thank
a
you,
second to making that change to the agenda?
I will second.
Moved by Arna Shawn, seconded by Lisa Parker. Is there any objection to that change? Teresa?
I don't know if this is an objection to that change but I put my hand up because I want to move that we table the second motion for a while, and I have a reason for that. So I don't know if that means I'm objecting to this change.
Well, let's go with adjusting this change and then take that as a separate motion.
Okay.
Okay? So the motion right now, the request is to move item 4 to item 2 and bump the rest down 1. Is there any objection to that change in the order of the bylaws, of the bylaw motions?
Excuse me, can a member, isn't there member comment?
If there's member comment, go ahead and raise your hand in chat.
He did.
I did.
Okay, well, I'm not seeing you.
At least I thought I did.
Yeah, you did, Grumpy. It's there.
Did.
Okay, well, we may be having some internet problems. I don't see on here. Go ahead, Grumpy.
Yes. Well, the membership probably knows the order that you're doing it in, and so I don't think you should change the order. And I'm sorry, I'm on twice because my phone is better for me to hear you. So if you see my name twice, it's because of that.
And I'm sorry, I was looking at the list of people for agenda review, so I didn't catch the discussion. Stephen?
Oh,
He already spoke.
Okay, and then Lisa just posted this. Is that everybody? Any further discussion on this agenda change? Any objection to this agenda change? Any objection on the board? You've heard one person from the membership opposed. Last call. Okay, seeing none, the agenda, we're going to reorder the agenda. So item 4 of the bylaws change will become 2, and all the rest will bump down 1. Okay. Now, any other? Teresa, did you want to raise your hand? Yeah.
Okay. So I really can appreciate Grumpy's point right now, because now I'm a little confused about what I'm going to say. So the original motion 2, which was addressing the voting age, and it moves the section from Article 6 to Article 5. And because there have been some concerns in the last few hours raised by the membership that this may impact protected voting rights, I personally do agree that this will protect, that this does impact protected voting rights. And if we decide to stay and talk about it tonight, I will be able to be a lot more articulate about that. I would like to say that I deeply respect the people who don't agree with me, and we interpret that. And I also want to say very clearly that I know everyone in this board cares about protecting voting rights, and that is a given. But because there is some recent talk, I would like to postpone this until August to allow for more dialogue from the membership. So I'm making a motion to move that back.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
Okay, moved by Teresa Vaughn and seconded by Sandra to move the minimum voting age motion, which was 2, is now 3 in the bylaws motions, to table it until the August meeting. Is there any membership discussion on the tabling of this motion? Stephen Dyerkoff.
Wait, oh, well, okay.
If this gets tabled and we decide we need to have more discussion, I'm fine with that. There's a couple of things I'd like to say. One,
This is only about the tabling of the motion, not about anything else.
Okay. What I'll say about the tabling of the motion is if it does not pass in some form in the August meeting, we will go back to our default, which is to allow 14-year-old and older to vote. So postponing has that consequence, and that's all I need to say about it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
I had my hand
So,
up.
I know, but I'm going through member comments before board.
Okay.
So just give me a second. So Jonathan
Okay.
Pincus, this is about tabling this motion till August. John? So John, we recognize your hand. We're not hearing you. I don't see him on here to see. You appear to be unmuted, but we're not hearing you. Last call for John Pincus. If we can't hear you. If you want, you can try and put your comments in the chat. Okay. Any other member comments? Seeing none, we'll go to board discussion. Arna?
Lisa Cooley has her
Lisa
hand
Cooley.
up.
I'm sorry, I got mixed up by John's second message. Lisa, go ahead.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to say I wholeheartedly support tabling this. Thank you.
Thank you. The last call for member input. Is there any other member input? Going to board discussion then. Arna.
This is really a question for Stephen Dyerkoff. If we postpone this to August and then it gets amended and can't get voted on till September, will that work for you in terms of new members for this year? I guess I'm concerned about, I'm happy to postpone this and table it, but I would like a decision on age for this year's election. So I guess I'm looking for your drop dead date on us making a decision on this for you to implement it for this year. And could Stephen respond to my question?
He can. I might have something to contribute that as well. Stephen?
I think that the August meeting would be my drop dead date, because by the time we have the September meeting, we will be very close to mailing ballots. So we also would be very close to the 30-day registration deadline. And I don't feel comfortably that we would be able to make a change at that late date. So I really think the August meeting is our drop dead deadline. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, and I will make, as a point of order here, I reviewed the bylaws because I was asked another question about this quite closely. And the bylaws require, some have ambiguity about the notice requirements, but they require a copy or summary of the amendment intent. And I would say that if you make a substantially substantive change, it's up to the board whether or not they feel obligated to put that back into a waiting period. But the bylaws do not necessarily indicate that amendments to the bylaws cannot be amended in a meeting and then passed. As long as they were properly noticed, provided a summary, according to the bylaw. That's that piece. Sandra, right?
Right. Yes, I think that any amendments that would be attached to this motion could be submitted under new business at the July meeting, and so they would be old business by August. No, they would be
Well, you could, so if you could submit,
yeah,
we don't really have a process for it, but for notice of purposes,
right.
your intent to amend the motion could be announced and your language published, and by doing so, you would certainly come much closer to meeting an intent of notifying the membership.
And we'd be able to do it all in August. And I really do support this. I think we need to think about this pretty carefully. And there's information out there that I think we would all benefit from in making a good decision if we understood it clearly. And right now, there's, I think that there's some more work to be done on that. So I hope we can delay it until August. I think we would make a better decision and an easier decision.
Thank you. John Alexander.
Thank you. So if this indeed did restrict voter or change voter rights, then it would this is a question, would it then need to go to a vote of the membership?
Are you so if that's a point of order question, I guess, or a procedural question, you're referring to, you're trying to figure out where my role is here. You're referring to, if you pass it, according to Article 11, Section 2, changes to a particular portion of which is what's under debate is, I think, the nature of what's in that article and the change that's being made to it. But if that change were to affect voting rights, then you're not really supposed to change it at all. You don't pass it. You can send a change to the membership for a vote, but in theory, only the membership can change it. They have to ratify it. So you would
Correct.
be.
So I can clarify, I guess, I don't know if there's a point of clarification or not, but if the idea, and I think if I'm hearing Teresa correctly, is that this might be an issue of voting rights. And if that's the case, we wouldn't be able to pass it in August anyway. We'd need to put it on the ballot. So if that's the case, I just would like to understand that, then it would go on the ballot and then we would default back to 14. And certainly if this motion is going to change the default to the 14 voting age to 16, or if it's amended to some other age, and that's determined to be a change in voting rights, then we just need to put it on the ballot in the first place, if Teresa's correct. And it probably won't make it through August either. But I do believe we got council opinion on this, that this was not a change in voting rights. So I am looking for a point of clarification.
Do you want to provide that point of clarification, Lisa?
I do. We have an explicit.
No. Or I'm sorry, I meant Teresa because she made the motion. Normally I wouldn't do this, but I believe it's not the voting age that's being raised.
So I believe there is, in fact, an issue with voting rights. Several people believe there is not. And I believe that we need to have that conversation, which is why I want to have time to have a deeper conversation about that. So there is an issue about whether or not, and it isn't the age that's the issue, that I don't believe. It is the movement of something into another section. And so I was just hoping that we could take some more time after it just kind of blew up on the media, that we could dive into it a little bit deeper. I believe it is. I know people I respect don't, including our attorney.
Okay, can I just follow up that or no?
Well, okay. Well, we're sort of digressing into dialogue. John, can you wrap up your turn?
I think Teresa clarified it, that we did get legal opinion about this. We would probably need to go back for legal opinion again if we decided that legal opinion doesn't stand, I think is what I'm hearing. And I just wanted that clarification too, and I'll stop there.
Lisa Parker.
I do not support tabling. I think it's premature. I think that we should have some discussion on the motion first, and then if tabling is what comes out of that discussion, then I'd be happy to consider that at that point. But I do not think it's appropriate to do that without having actually discussed the motion. And we do have an explicitly written legal opinion from our attorney that there are no voting rights involved.
So AJ, can you? Yeah, well, I'm not calling on you. Can you take a look at your text?
Yeah. Yes. And my hand is up for comment when.
Okay. So, but yes for now
Yeah.
on this subject. Okay. So even though we're in board discussion, Stephen, you go ahead.
I'll be very brief. We do have a firm legal opinion that this does not affect voting rights. However, I've suggested to the board on multiple times that we might want to put this as a referendum before the membership anyway. I don't have an issue if that's what we decide to do out of an abundance of caution, but I do trust the legal advice we've gotten. Thanks.
Teresa.
You already called.
Okay. All right. Arna.
I also don't have a problem with putting this question, about the age at least, to the membership. As to what position it goes to in our bylaws is it's not a question that we put to the membership. But we do have a legal opinion from our attorney about it that says that what we're doing is appropriate. What I do want to say though is, if this gets tabled, that default age of 14 was my understanding is something that Stephen Dyerkoff basically just chose. He can correct me if I'm wrong. I do not like that age.
That I did not choose that. That's been our tradition for decades.
I think we should choose another default position, which the board, I think, can just vote on without putting it into the bylaws. I think 14 is really too young to have kids voting. And
Okay. So we're really just talking about tabling now. You'll have to wait till.
You're right. I'm sorry. I'm off topic. Thank you.
Okay, AJ.
Is it appropriate to ask for a friendly amendment to Teresa's amendment?
Not to. Well, is it directly related to tabling?
Yes.
What is it you're asking for?
Move to have this item sent to the membership on the next ballot.
That would be different. That's that's not a tabling motion. That's a doing something with. So we need to stick with tabling at the moment. But you can make that amendment to the motion if the motion comes up on the floor tonight as an alternative. Okay, Paxton.
I was on the bylaws committee when 14 came up and was kind of decided on a time, and it was really based on the minimum age that one could get a wristband.
Okay,
If you had a wristband.
Alden Paxton, we're only talking about tabling this motion or not.
Okay.
So, not about the 14 age. Do you have anything on tabling this motion?
I'm perfectly happy to table it myself.
Okay. Is that it? Okay, thank you. John Alexander, correct?
Yeah, so just on the tabling, I would suggest, because of Stephen Dyerkoff's, there's a bit of urgency here, and especially if it goes on the ballot, I suggest we don't table it, we talk about it, and I think AJ, then we can get into AJ's idea, which other people have supported, even though we have lawyer opinion, maybe we just take this to memberships, but we can't do that if we table it. And then we get into the time constraints that Stephen talked about. So that's kind of where I'm at on tabling it now. Let's talk about it and get it done, and I think we can do it clean and fast.
Is there any further discussion on tabling this motion? Last call. We're going to do a vote on tabling. Sandra,
Yes.
George,
No.
Paxton,
Yes.
AJ,
Yes.
Lisa,
No.
John Steinhardt,
No.
Sue, Sue with us? She said she was having some issues.
I said no. Can you
No,
not hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
And Thomas is gone. John Alexander,
No.
Teresa Vaughn,
Yes.
Arna,
No.
Kevin.
Yes.
Okay. So the motion to table fails. It is still on the agenda as item 3 of the bylaws issues. Are there any other agenda review items? Any other discussion on the agenda? Is that AJ on the agenda?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. I believe it is the last one on old business. Change the petition signature requirement.
Yes.
I would like to ask that we table that, as it doesn't seem. Well, I'm just going to ask that we table that for our August meeting.
Is there a second to move that motion to August?
I'll second.
Okay, moved by AJ and seconded by John Steinhardt to move that motion to August. Is there any member input on tabling this motion? Stephen,
I'm fine with tabling it, thanks.
any other member input? Any board discussion on tabling this motion? Okay. I don't know if that's your hand, John, and did you have member input, Jonathan Pincus? And can you be heard? Okay. Last call for board conversation, board input on this motion.
Hey, Stephen, can I have a point of privilege, I think is what I'm going to say.
What are you looking for?
We have a lot on the agenda tonight, and I would hope, I'm just wanting us, once we move to board discussion, not to go back. We're limited time tonight, so.
Okay, yeah, I understand. It popped up. Last call for board discussion. Seeing none, is there any objection to tabling this motion? No one has spoken against it. Is there any objection to tabling this motion until August? Last call. Seeing none, motion 5 of the bylaw changes is tabled till August. And we will be moving on now. Is there any objection to adopting the agenda as amended? Last call. Seeing none, the agenda is adopted as amended, and we're going to member comments. Are there any member comments? Craig Smith.
Sorry, it took me a while to get unmuted and a little out of practice. So my name is Craig Smith, and I'm an elder at the Oregon Country Fair, and I'm a member of the Fixed Asset Committee and also a member of the Carbon Neutral Working Group. And we sent the board a little report, and there has been board interest in a motion. So for some of those of you who might not remember, back in 2019, the board passed a motion for the fair to strive to become carbon neutral. And so I just wanted to speak in favor of it. It should be coming up next month. It's in new business tonight. And I just wanted to take the opportunity to say that we have been working hard through the pandemic and with lack of resources like so many of our volunteer and paid staff. But we did put together a good report. We will have something in the Fair Family News, so you should be able to see that soon. And those who are not familiar with the work of the Carbon Neutral Working Group, on the home page of the .net site, you can click on and see reports and things that are done. So I'm excited that there are so many board members that want to sponsor adapting the motion to change the date from 2025, which is just about a year away or less, half a year, to 2030. And so anyway, I just wanted to speak in favor of that. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. And a reminder, it's fine for Craig, and I think new business is somewhat of a vague area. We are looking for member input on things not on the agenda, which we don't talk about new business, so it's fine for that to be one of the items, but not on anything on the old business agenda. Is there any member input on stuff not on tonight's agenda? Last call. Last call for member input. Okay, seeing none, we're going to go to staff report, executive director.
Thank you, Stephen, and good evening, everybody, and thank you for your time tonight. Give you the update on what's going on. As you know, we're rolling into the fair. It's a very busy season. We're super excited about what's coming up. The site is alive with activity as we gear up for main camp opening, which is next Saturday. Lots of exciting changes are happening, from the new database, a new ticket vendor, to a new portable toilet service provider. These are big lifts, and we thank all of you for your effort in helping make them a success. We have received feedback around the database, and we are using that to improve everyone's experience. This is a 3-year project, and the first year is always the hardest. The big driver of this project was to offer the ability to take credit cards. We have pushed about $300,000 in credit card transactions through the database as of today. I can say this option has been well received, and we have taken over $300,000 in credit card payments through the database. We expect this to increase as we get closer to the event. As a reminder, we closed the database on July 5th at midnight. After that point, you will not be able to pay for inventory via credit card yourself. The inventory year or booth registration will be able to handle that for you. Ticket sales are going very well and on par with last year. We offered significantly more 3-day wristbands, and I'm happy to report that we have sold out. We are excited to work with United Site Services for our portable toilets this year. This is our biggest and most expensive contract. They are bringing a high level of logistical support to our waste management. The foundation has been laid for a great fair this year. I look forward to working alongside each of you to create the magic that is our beloved annual fundraiser. From an administration perspective, I have reiterated the staff schedules. All employees will be on site Friday through Sunday, starting last week. And then I will not read through the detail. It will be published in the FFM, but you can see that most staff is off on Monday and Tuesday, and will be working Wednesday through Friday. We have staff on site on Monday and Tuesday, which is Jeff and Derwin, and Corey and Alexis. And then a couple of them are off on Wednesdays and Thursdays, but the majority of staff is on site. In fact, all staff is on site Friday through Sunday. In regards to the Sunshine database, as I mentioned, things are going well, but there are challenges. The first year is always the hardest, and we thank you for your patience as we continue to improve it. Your feedback is valued, and we appreciate it. There are 4 training videos available on the .net site under latest news. So please review the relevant video for your area before trying to log into the database. The topics are food, craft, crew, and coordinators. Teen crew assignment notifications have gone out, so that piece is done. Peach Pit crafter listings for the first time are being done through the database and are done and have been sent to the Peach Pit. We have over 5,300 users. We expect to have upwards of 15,000 users when this is all done. From the event management perspective, all of our contracts are in place. LTD contract is signed. They should have more buses on Friday this year. There was some a shortage last year on Friday. We will publish the schedules on the .org site as soon as they release them. Dust control was a big issue last year, and we are applying lignin ourselves, and we will apply it multiple times. We are also increasing watering during Crunch Week, so we'll start having a full watering truck starting Monday of Crunch Week. We are meeting with the City of Veneta Management and the Lane County Sheriffs for a site tour on Friday, June 21st. This is an annual meeting to discuss what's new. As a reminder, Main Camp Kitchen is only for working crews. Setting up your camp or holding meetings do not qualify for meals at Main Camp Kitchen. We ask crews that aren't pre-fair crews to schedule no more than 2 work parties during Main Camp that qualify for Main Camp Kitchen meals. Lines for meals have been extremely long, and we need you all to do your part to make sure that the people working are getting fed. Our 2024 permits, we have our 4 campground permits have been approved. The Far Side Outdoor Assembly and campground permits are still under review by the county. I did find out last week that the footbridge does not require a permit, so that's good to know. We put it up for a permit last year. It hadn't been permitted since the 90s, and so now we know we don't have to permit that because we do not impact the riparian setback. Both the Far Side Outdoor Assembly and campground permit were approved last year, so we are confident that this will be approved again this year. That is the only permit that is hanging out. We did receive our ODOT Highway 126 permit today. EAB, as a reminder, there was an emergency declaration at the last board meeting that no firewood should be brought to or taken from site. What that means is no live edge wood, which means wood with bark, should be brought to or taken from site. I'm not going to read the entire guidelines of the invasive species in wood because I read it last time, and I think I read it the time before that, but it will be published in the FFN, so please take the opportunity to read our invasive wood species, our invasive species and wood guideline. It's imperative that we do everything we can to prevent the introduction of the emerald ash borer to our site. That is the only thing that we can do at this time, is try and prevent the infestation. Marketing, 2024 ticket sales are actually up 15%. When I wrote this report, they were up 13%. We're up over 6 figures. We're up over $100,000 in revenue and ticket sales this year over year. It's too early to tell if we will sell out all 3 days. I hope to have a better perspective on that as we go to the July meeting. We will move to general admission, regular price tickets at $60 each day on June 16th. Through the event, we did a promotion over the weekend, and we saw an uptick in ticket sales, promoting the fact that ticket prices are going up on June 16th. So that was a really good push. Tickets are still being sold Mondays and Tuesdays at the Eugene office from noon to 4. We're seeing a really good uptake on that. So we're happy to see that we're serving our local community with a local ticket outlet. And again, the last day to purchase tickets through the Eugene office will be Tuesday, June 25th. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And Treasurer's report.
Thanks, Stephen. And thanks, Kirsten and the staff and all the volunteers who are working so hard right now. It's getting kind of exciting. We're getting right there where it's going to go. I wanted to take a little bit of time to talk to you about how we measure how we're managing our growth. You know, we throw out a lot of numbers. You know, we throw out the attendance numbers, we throw out the daily budget numbers, we throw out the overall sales, the caps we have on attendance each day. But within since 2021, we've been talking about managing growth by capacity numbers, and the capacity number is giving us how many people on site per day. So that's the number. That those other numbers are all still important, how many tickets we sell overall and how many tickets we have as a cap per day. But the capacity number is how we're managing both our internal population and the attendance population. And that number we're putting at 35,000 per day on site at any time. That number is based on the 2018 attendance. So if you are going for a goldenrod and you have a great idea, but I just need, 20 more people because there's this great new idea, chances are it's going to be too late at this point, because we are balancing the number of tickets we're selling and the number of people on site so that we won't exceed this 35,000 per day. For the last 2 years, we operated with that same number, but then in 2020, what would it be, 2022, we ended up being way below that because we limited the daily ticket sales and we way undersold those. Our attendance was quite low. Last year, we were using those numbers and we undersold. This year, all signs are we could hit that 35,000. And this is part of a process of us figuring out what is the right capacity, what is the amount. And we're approaching this as managing our growth in a way that we have not done before. Previously we looked at our needs and our desires and ideas for brand new programs, and we weighted that more heavily than overall managing the growth. And now we're throwing in that we are going to manage the number of people that we have on site in conjunction with what our needs are. So please be patient with us. It's also managing the money and making sure that's going to work out. And we think we've hit it right, and we will see this year, and we appreciate people's feedback on it. And we'll try to keep that language consistent so that we can talk about capacity and people know what we're talking about and understand that we really are working to develop the tools and the understanding to manage our growth. So see you out at the site.
Thank you, Hillary. And with that, we're moving on to committee and work group reports. Is there any objection to accepting the committee and work group reports as submitted? Is there any discussion on it? Seeing no discussion, is there any objection? Any objection to accepting them as submitted? Last call. Seeing no objection, the committee and work group reports are accepted as submitted by unanimous consent, and we'll move on to old business. The first item on old business is make committee best practices work group a committee. Sandra Bauer and Arna Shaw, would someone like to make the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Arna Shaw and seconded by John Steinhardt. Would you like to speak to this, Arna?
Well, yeah, I'd like to read actually the whole thing because there's a whole little part to it.
Okay.
Besides making us a committee, we are a work group now, and we'd like to become a committee. We would retain our current members and have the following mission statement. The Committee Best Practices Committee's purpose is to formulate and recommend policy and processes to the board that enhance communication between committees and the board and committees and the membership. The committee's primary goal is to regularly update the Best Practices Manual through consultation with interested parties to create organizational standards that support transparency, consistency, openness, inclusive and diverse representation, and participation. The committee will also perform related tasks as needed. That's it.
Thank you.
I guess I'm just going to add a little bit that, unless Sandra wants to add a little bit at this point, that we as a work group have worked really consistently and I think professionally. We have brought policy proposals to the board. I think we brought 3 or 4 last year, the majority of them being passed. One, the board said, take this back to your committee and work on it some more, and we are. And then I think we had 2 of them passed this year. And I say that to show that we are a hard-working group of people that take seriously our purpose and our mission. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Sandra, did you want to say something to this before I go to member input?
Yeah. Yeah, we started out as a work group because I think honestly we thought there was a possibility, but it would be one and done. But as we've gotten into doing the work, I think the Best Practices Committee or work group has become a real resource for the fair in helping to puzzle through some of the issues that we deal with in terms of how we work with committees. And so it just makes sense to become a committee and, and then have all the responsibilities of a committee, which includes having members approved by the board. And, I don't know, I don't know how many other real significant, but it is becoming a permanent fixture in our landscape. So I hope you approve it.
Thank you very much. Is there any member input on this motion? Member input? Please raise your hand in chat if you want to speak to the motion of converting the work group on committee best practices to a committee. Lisa Cooley.
I just want to say thank you to the Best Practices Committee or work group right now for your hard work, and you've been a true resource for us as I'm a part of the Elders Committee, and you've helped us work through some difficult, questions. And it's really, truly, we're grateful that you guys are working on this, and I hope that we can make you guys a committee. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Is there any other member input on this matter? Last call. Last call for member input. Seeing none, we'll go to board discussion. Oh, John Steinhardt.
I just want to say that the Best Practices Working Group has followed the best practices better than anybody, so I suggest making them a committee.
Thank you. Lisa Parker.
I was on the board that created the Best Practices Working Group and gave them their enabling motion. I was also on the board that accepted the work product, which was the committee best practices manual. When the work group started reconvening after that work product was accepted by the board, I was a little concerned because it seemed like the work group was sort of taking on stuff that hadn't been a board charge to them to do. And I got a lot of flack for that opinion from members of the work group and some of the general membership. But one of the things that I suggested as a possible solution to that was that they become a standing committee, because I recognized that the work group felt that there was ongoing work that needed to be done. And so I am glad to see that this is happening. And I want to thank you guys for finally bringing this before the board, because I think it needed to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Sue.
While I don't doubt all the amount of work that's been put out and the manual that has been very helpful, I don't see the need to elevate the working group to committee status. That's all. I can't support the motion.
Thank you. Is there any other board discussion on this motion? Last call for board discussion. Seeing none, and since we've heard from both sides, we're going to go to a vote. This is on we'll go Kevin. We're voting on whether or not to convert the work group on committee best practices to a committee. Kevin.
Yes, I believe in him.
Arna.
Yes.
Teresa Vaughn.
Yes.
John Alexander.
Yes.
Sue.
No.
John Steinhardt.
Yes.
Lisa Parker,
Yes.
AJ,
Yes.
Paxton,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Sandra.
Yes.
Motion passes with Sue voting no. And we'll move on to the next item of business, which is changing the method of selecting directors to election by written ballot to clarify the election certification process. Who would like to make that motion?
I'm happy to make that motion.
Okay. Moved as submitted in writing. It's a long thing to read.
Correct.
Yes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Who was that? Was that Lisa? Okay. Moved by Paxton and seconded by Lisa. Is there any member discussion? Do you guys want to, is anybody that, Lisa, do you have a prelude to this motion? Does anybody, otherwise we'll go to member input and I bet Steve will raise his hand.
I would like to go ahead and defer that to Stephen because I think that he can best explain it.
Okay, so member input. Let's start with member input. Stephen.
Yeah, so I'll try to just put this in context really briefly because I think a lot of people still don't understand how we conduct our elections now. Years ago, the only mechanism that statute allowed for selecting our directors was to have a vote at a meeting, a physical vote at a meeting, an in-person meeting. We started issuing proxy ballots to people who wanted to vote remotely many, many years ago. I don't remember exactly when this happened, but we had to do that because Oregon statute required us to do that. We could not just accept a direct written ballot from somebody. Since then, every single person who sends us a ballot in the mail or drops a ballot off at the office is actually voting by proxy. They are appointing the membership secretary to cast a vote on their behalf, and they are stipulating exactly how the vote should be cast. So it's not like a corporate proxy where I get to vote for whoever I want in their name. I have to follow their instructions. That's how I have been conducting the elections. That's how Heidi has been conducting the elections. Statute has changed, and we can now have a direct election by written ballot, which is de facto what we've been doing for years. And this fairly comprehensive change to many parts of our bylaws basically just changes it to written ballot and gets rid of the requirement for proxies for anybody who does not vote in person at the annual meeting. Last year, not a single vote was cast in person at the annual meeting. A half dozen or so proxies were dropped in the ballot box that had already been issued, but not one single vote was cast at the meeting. So basically all we're doing is changing the bylaws to follow what our practice is. I'll try to be very brief on the rest of this. There have been some questions about why we're retaining the proxy authorization. That is there for the handful, literally handful of members who spoil their ballots, do not receive their ballots in time to return them before the deadline. Issues like that. They can, at that point, they can appoint me to be the proxy and they can instruct me how to cast their ballot, and I can cast it just as I've been doing all along. So we kept that language in there, and perhaps at some point we'll find another mechanism for people to cast ballots from far, far away and not have to send them in the mail. But for right now, this is the way we handle the people that can't get their ballots back to us in time. So I think it's really important that we pass this so that we can conduct our elections the way we've been conducting them going forward. Otherwise, we'll have to continue with the proxies and continue accepting ballots at the annual meeting. One other thing I should say is that anybody who comes to the annual meeting wishes to vote in person can be issued a ballot at the annual meeting. So that won't change either. Thanks.
Thank you. And Jonathan Pincus, can we hear you this time? Jonathan.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Okay. Well, I was confused about how this would change things, and Stephen just explained it. So that's all I needed. Thanks.
Thank you. Grumpy?
Sorry, I'm having trouble on my phone. so I'm here now
We hear you.
by the internet. Hopefully you can hear me. I have a question. Does this change not having an annual meeting? Some way that I was trying to read this, it seemed like we could have ballots with, for, the directors without an annual meeting. So I want to make sure that that isn't true. I don't mind the change because of the proxy thing, but I would hope that we still would have to have an annual meeting.
So
Am I
I
right?
can answer that for you by, an annual meeting of the members of, shall be called by the board at a date to be fixed by the board, but in no case later than October 15th. That is still part of the motion. So it obligates the board to call an annual meeting.
And then one other thing, does this change it from the October 30th to the October 15th?
October
Okay.
15th becomes the different deadline. That's in
Thank
the
you.
motion. Is there any other member input on this motion? Last call for member input. Seeing none, we'll go to board discussion. Paxton.
I was on the bylaws committee when we wrote the proxy language, and we were really had a lot of work to do on that, trying to figure out a way that we can come in under Oregon state statute. I am really so happy that that has changed, and we're able to really move towards actual voting individually instead of having to go through the proxy. I think this motion really clarifies that, or changes, clarifies what we are doing or want to do. And I also think this will lead us in the long run into laying the groundwork for online balloting. So I'm fully supportive of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board discussion? If there's any other board discussion, raise your hand in chat. Last call for board discussion. No one has spoken against the motion, so is there any objection to adoption of this motion by unanimous consent? Any objection? Last call for an objection. Seeing none, the motion is adopted by unanimous consent. We're moving on to changing the voting participation requirement to count voting in any election versus only the annual election as fulfilling the requirement. Who would like to make that motion? Arna, you want to make that motion submitted as submitted?
Yes.
That is motion 4 on the agenda.
And I'll second it.
Moved by Arna and seconded by Paxton. Are we all clear on what motion we're talking about? So it was originally bylaw motion 4, change the voting participation requirement. Okay. Is there any member input on this motion?
Perhaps we should read it out more for the membership so that they actually know what it is.
I can read again as this motion was.
I don't have it right in front of me.
So, well, they're all pretty long because it depends on how much of the bylaw language you want to read. The motion title.
It was mostly that any election would count for the requirements to be able to vote and be a member, rather than just the annual election, which means that, such as last year voting in the recall would count as voting in election. If we had any other elections, that would count as voting in election. I think that's it in a nutshell. If any other board member or Stephen wants to correct me, go ahead, but I think that's basically what it is.
Can I have one point of clarity?
Yeah.
So would this include a one-off ballot? Let's say if we asked the membership to vote on a age limit.
Yeah, it's, so the change is minimal here. It is Article 5, Section 5, subparagraph B, bullet point 2. And it changes the word from at least one annual membership every three, I think, meeting every 3 years. So I think there's a flaw there. To at least one membership meeting or action by written ballot every 3 years. So anything that would go to the membership at large would then qualify as having participated.
Right. So that's my clarity is election is synonymous to written ballot. So
Any-
election sometimes involves humans, but a written ballot is a written ballot. So if you would vote in any written ballot, you're in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Stephen, go ahead.
Yeah, so just a little bit of context and a little more clarity here. That is absolutely correct. Any election, whether we do it by written ballot or an in-person meeting, would count. The context is that in the past, we did all of our elections were the annual elections. If we had a removal action of a director, that would be done at the annual election. Oregon statute has changed, and now we cannot conduct a removal action as part of any other meeting. We have to have a separate meeting for the removal action, therefore a separate election. When our bylaw was written, everything we did happened at the annual meeting. Now it does not. And this, a year ago, when we had a removal action, we had several members who voted in that action, but when it came time to vote last fall, we found that they voted in that action but had not voted in the past 3 annual membership elections, and we had to disqualify them as members. We did not think that was right, and so we wanted to correct that by amending the bylaws to allow participation in any election to count towards the once every 3 years requirement. Thanks.
Thank you. Fire Kit Tom and Aaron.
Sorry, I'm trying to get unmuted there. I just wanted to comment on motions. I think it's really helpful if the motions are read or paraphrased before every vote. I find it very difficult to be in the audience and not hear what you're actually voting on. So I really appreciate that you did that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member input on this motion? Hillary.
Yeah, I prefer that it stay the way it is. I think the civic duty to the fair is shown by showing up at the annual meeting, and the other votes are, while it's necessary for the organization, I think you keep your membership up by participating, and that's what allows you to vote in the special vote. So I would not support this.
Thank you. Any other member input? Last call for member input. Any other member input on this motion? Seeing none, we'll go to board discussion. Any board discussion on this motion? Last call for board discussion.
I apologize. I was just looking at the summary that's in the agenda, and I'm trying to pull up the motion itself to ensure it doesn't use the word election, but uses ballots, because elections do have to do with human beings. I'm looking at the definition. Can you just read the motion one more time?
The motion is to take Article 5, Section 5, subparagraph B, which is suspension or termination. Membership may be suspended or terminated for failure to, and there are 4 bullet points. 1, meet the conditions of membership as provided in Section 2A of this article, or 2, vote in, and this is where the change occurs. It currently reads, vote in at least one annual membership meeting every 3 years, or, and then there are 2 more requirements. The change is to change that to vote in at least one membership meeting or action by written ballot every 3 years. That's the change. Then the other 2 points are to comply with the bylaws or other rules, resolutions, and policies of OCF, and bullet point 4 for action contrary to the interests of OCF. Those are the processes by which your membership can be suspended or terminated.
Okay, can I follow up?
Yeah.
That's perfect. So ballot is the right word, elections not, and that's what it says in the agenda. So that's fantastic. Love it. Well written.
Thank you. Lisa Parker.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up with you with John Alexander on that. I can see the source of confusion because on the board motions document, it says change the voting participation requirement to count voting in any election versus only the annual election as fulfilling the requirement. But when you look down, the actual change to the bylaws, the wording is at least one membership meeting or action by written ballot. So that's where the confusion, I think, happened with that, was that language wasn't consistent. So, and I have a kind of mixed feelings about this. On the one hand, I agree that, civic duty is really important. But I also am really aware that we have about 5,000 registered members and only about 1,000, little over 1,000 vote in a year when we have good turnout. And my hope is that this might be something that could improve voter turnout possibly for the annual elections, not just those special situations that we get sometimes. So that's why I support it.
Thank you.
Point of information, it's closer to 2,000 people that vote. And we actually had some people that voted in the removal action that wanted to vote in last fall's election and were not able to. Thanks.
Appreciate that. Not a point of information, though. There's actually just a point of inquiry. Point of information was removed from Robert's rules. Sandra.
Yeah, this has brought up, just kind of a puzzling thing for me, because in order to vote, you have to register to vote 30 days in advance of the action to vote. So doesn't that make you eligible to vote in all cases? I mean, do you register? I don't think I understood that about the removal action, that you registered just to vote for that, but not from what you're saying. It sounds like you then have to re-register to vote in the annual election.
So I think I can clarify for you, Sandra, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So the motion here is so you don't have to join the organization to be qualified to vote. You have to submit an application to become a member. And that has to be, at the moment, 30 days before the annual membership meeting. And it's one of the motions that's on the floor about adjusting. Okay. Everyone who's a member gets a ballot. So the ballots are still sent to all the people who have registered. And to stay on that list, you have to vote in at least one election every 3 years. And this changes to say that if you participate in any particular election or balloted vote, that basically resets the clock. So if you had not voted in 2 annual membership elections, a special election came up and you voted in it, you would have 3 years before you would be up to being questioned again. Does that make sense?
Right. So the advisory votes that membership sometimes make, that's during an election. So in order to vote for any of that, you have to be a member. You have to have, okay, I get it. Thank you.
Thank you. John Alexander.
Yeah, so this is great, and I appreciate the comments. I think we all want more people voting in our elections for us as board members. And while we think that the civic duty, or the most important vote that we do, could be, it might be argued, is voting in the annual election of our board members. The net game of this would be more ballots would be sent out, because less people would be removed because they had other opportunities to vote. So while we'd want to encourage people to vote for this, I could see there's kind of a dichotomy here. This might encourage people to vote in recalls or other kind of things, but still not vote in the election. But what this will do is it'll be a net gain in the number of ballots set out for each annual election for members. So that's a bit of a conundrum in the vote, but I think that's at the end of the day, we want more people voting for the board members, and this will result in more board ballots sent for that election, not less.
Thank you. Stephen.
Yeah, to clarify the process a little bit, we generate a purge list in August of people who are about to be removed from the rolls for non-participation. We attempt to contact all those people. Not all respond. Some wait until after the deadline to submit a membership application to query about where their ballot is, even though we've sent them a notice that they're being removed from the voting rolls. At that point, it's too late for them to register. But if somebody does get our notice that they're going to be removed and they do submit a membership form in time, we will reinstate them. So, but a few people will always fall through the cracks, and we're just trying to make it a little easier for people to vote. Thanks.
Any other board discussion on this motion? John Steinhardt.
I thought I was in favor of this coming into the meeting, and now I'm not so sure. If our goal is to purge fewer people from the rolls, why don't we just change that 3-year number to 5 years or something? This seems like a lot of extra complication for us, and given how rarely we have any ballots outside of the annual election, it seems like really minimal gain for nothing. If we want to make it 4 years till people go off the rolls, why don't we do that instead?
Thank you. Any other board discussion? Last call for board discussion. Okay, seeing none, AJ, go ahead.
And this might sound picky, but like, should we put OCF election, or should we clarify that it's an election? There's lots of elections going on around the time that we are in our election. So should we clarify, does that make sense?
So I guess the thing is, you're asking a question, and John Steinhardt asked a question that I assumed he wasn't making an amendment, so led to no action. You're sort of asking a question that asks me, do you want to actually change a motion? So let me just say, the motion previously said only voting in 1 out of 3 annual membership meetings, and it presumes that because this is our bylaws, it's our annual membership meeting. So now it says annual in 1 membership meeting or action by written ballot, and I would say it's pretty fair to say that would presume our written ballot, not any other ballot made by anyone else. If you want to make a motion to change that, then we just need actual words like at least 1 OCF membership meeting or action by written ballot. Do you want to make that?
I just wanted to ask the folks that are on the bylaws committee if it makes sense to add an extra clarification that it's OCF. If they agree that it doesn't and it's assumed, I'm okay with that.
Do you want to speak to that, Stephen?
Yeah, sorry. No, I don't think it matters. I think the context is there. It's in our bylaws, and just as Stephen said, that voting in an annual membership election implies it's one of ours, and it's the same thing with this change. So I don't think it's necessary. We define what the context of the document is at the very beginning of the document. Thanks.
Yeah.
Does that satisfy AJ?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Paxton.
Hand down. Thank you.
Hand down. Okay. Last call for board discussion. Is there any more board discussion on this motion? Seeing none, we're going to proceed to a vote. Sue.
Yes.
John Steinhardt.
No.
No? Did I hear you correctly? No?
No.
Lisa.
Yes.
AJ.
Sorry. Yes.
Paxton,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Sandra,
Yes.
John Alexander,
Yes.
Teresa Vaughn,
Yes.
Arna,
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes with John Steinhardt voting no. And we will move on to the next item of business. The next item of business is establishing a minimum age for OCF membership. Who's going to make that motion?
I will.
Lisa, moved by Lisa Parker. As submitted, I can go ahead and provide a summary if we like.
All second.
Moved by Lisa Parker and seconded by Paxton.
Would you like me to give a little background?
If you, brief, or at least just a summary of the language that's in the motion.
So currently, membership is tied to the receipt of a wristband. And that means that folks who are old enough to be on Teen Crew, those who are 14 to 18 years old, qualify to get wristbands, and so they can apply for membership. And this is a little bit problematic just because if the wristband requirements ever change or anything like that, then figuring out the criteria, Stephen could probably address this better, but at any rate, there's no age in the bylaws. And so the membership secretary has to basically just follow what we've been doing, which is precedent over the years. I will get to the language here real quick. Sorry, I have to scroll back up.
I can do it if you want. I have it right in front of me.
Oh, why don't you go ahead since you have it right?
So the language of this motion changes Article 5, Section 2, which has to do with eligibility for membership, so that it says any individual is eligible for membership if the individual is registered with the OCF, comma, and then the new language is has attained the age of 16 years, comma, and then all the rest of the language is unchanged, has received a wristband, other fair camping pass, etc. It also changes Article 5, Section 2D, a new section, and says an individual must submit a registration form at least 30 days before a membership meeting or election to be eligible to vote at that meeting or election. And then it changes Article 5, Section 6A, by removing all members who have been members for at least 30 days prior to the date of a membership meeting shall be entitled to cast one vote on any issue brought before the membership. And it changes that language to all members who have fulfilled the eligibility requirements of Article 5, Section 2 shall be entitled to cast one vote on any issue brought before the membership. Those are the three changes that this motion makes. All right, we're going to go now to member input. Is there any member input? Member input? Stephen Dyerkoff.
So yeah, again, I'll give a little background on this. What our intent was is to, when we establish a minimum voting age, and Lisa was correct that according to the current bylaws, it is tied to receipt of a wristband, which means the minimum voting age is essentially set outside of the bylaws. We wanted to allow people who attained whatever minimum voting age was decided upon, who attained that age by the date that the ballots were due to be eligible to vote. However, they have to submit their membership application 30 days prior to the election. So they do not have to be members 30 days prior to the election. They just have to submit the application then. So that's kind of why we made the changes that we made. We thought that moving the requirement to submit the form 30 days before the election date should be moved to Article 5, Section 2, I think it is, to the section that deals with membership eligibility requirements, because that is an eligibility requirement. We got an opinion from our attorney, and if it would be helpful, I could get that and read that opinion that says that this does not change the voting rights of the members. It changes the eligibility to become a member, which is a separate issue. So we don't think that this invokes Article 11, Section 2 for that reason. And again, if somebody wants, there's about a 2-paragraph opinion that I'd be happy to read. I think I'm okay with that. If you don't want me to read it, that's fine too. Thanks.
You're welcome to read it if you like.
Okay, let me dig it up. It'll just take me a moment. Go on to the next person and come back to me.
Okay, the next person is Heather.
Can I make my comments after Stephen read?
Yes, if you're going to put in the attorney comments, Stephen, I think that's reasonable.
How about if I paste it in the chat right now?
Okay. Yeah?
I don't know how to ask this in an open session, but I don't know that there's precedent for reading our attorney's opinions in an open meeting. And so before that happens, I need some assurance that there's precedent for that.
So I don't have an answer about precedents in the past. I could say that, it's up to the board whether or not they share attorney information. If it's not about property or employment or whatever, it's very discretionary. This is on a subject for membership. So I guess if you want to object to attorney opinion being shared with the membership, we should probably have a vote on that. I don't know. I don't have an answer.
Stephen, I have my hand up about precedent.
I would like to object until the board has a chance to decide that. I don't feel comfortable with reading our attorney's opinions in open meeting.
All right.
Without their permission as well.
Okay. Well, I guess the issue would be, are you willing to have a vote on whether or not to share this particular piece of legal opinion with the membership right now by the board?
I don't know. I'm looking for some board opinions on this because we have not shared with the attorney that we would be reading their opinions in an open board meeting. And when we do have legal sessions with our attorneys, those are privileged to the board, in my opinion, and what I've, and so I'm hesitant to take that vote in an open meeting and have that shared without conversation with our attorney.
Hillary had her hand up to
Well,
speak.
I saw Hillary had her hand up. Do you have something directly related to precedents, Hillary?
Yeah, I don't think there is a precedent for reading a attorney letter in an open meeting, and much for the same reason that AJ said.
Okay, well, all I want to know is whether we have any precedents for it. So the answer is
I have no memory of.
okay. Well, so neither do I. So neither does anyone here. So I would say then that under these circumstances, we simply can't. We're not going to read that opinion to the membership unless somebody wants to make a motion to do so. I'm going to go with the president saying, basically, we're not comfortable with doing that. So, and I've got a mix of people getting into the stack here, and we're still in member input. So, Stephen, we're going to bypass that reading and go to Heather Kent.
Point of order.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think this is a point of order. AJ asked for board input on whether to read this or not. So, But
he doesn't want to make a motion or have a discussion in public about it. That's the problem I'm having. So essentially, it's not to do it unless a board member wants to put a motion on the floor to read it, and then we'll have a discussion about that motion. I don't really have a precedent, so I'm following my way through
Okay.
it. So either we have a motion to do it so that a discussion about doing it can be had, or we're gonna just not do it.
So to my point of order then, because the membership has asked for it to be read, I would make a motion and I'm fine if it fails.
Okay,
Point of privilege.
go ahead,
real quick.
AJ.
I don't think we can make a motion because we have not gotten approval from our attorney to read an open meeting. That's the point that I'm in. I don't think we can decide that for our attorney. I think that sets a bad precedent. And I would like our attorney's opinion on whether they would like us to read their opinions in an open meeting.
Well, can that be part of a discussion about whether or not to do it? I mean, I know a little bit about it from attorney opinions shared in other meetings that I've been a part of. And that is that, you give up any privilege on this particular letter, on this particular subject. I mean, that's what I did when I shared the attorney opinion that I received. I gave up privilege on that subject. But if the subject is not something that needs to be privileged, it's your choice whether or not to do it. You being the board.
I think we need further
that's my take to you. And if you want to go, if you doubt that and you want to go to the attorney, the question is, can that be a board decision, or are you saying as a president we're not going to do it?
I'll probably take heat for this, but I'm gonna go as president. We're not going to do it. We can have further discussion on whether we want to do that in the future, another time.
Okay. So John's offered a motion, and you're saying no. And the only thing that would be acceptable here, I think, would be because the powers of the president extend as an executive outside of the meeting, but in the meeting, you're running the show. If a member of the board wants to move to overrule the president, then we could have that discussion. Otherwise, that ruling would stand. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. Yeah. And
so, is there any board member who wants to move? Sorry, is there any board member who wants to move to overrule the decision not to share the legal information? It's essentially the same as asking to read it. Do you want to do that, John?
I had my hand up. I don't like the language of overrule the president. What I like the language of is that I would move because there is nothing confidential in the nature of the lawyer's opinion, and that we paid for it and she wrote it, that we read that.
I can't help. So the problem here right now, John, is I can't help you with that language. The president has said we're not going to do it. So the only way to do this is to overrule him. I know how you feel about the words, it still has to be that wording because there's a ruling. Do you want to do that?
I'm not going to use the language that I want to overrule the president. So okay. I'm stuck on that one, I guess.
And I'm a little stuck on there's a ruling. I can't, I'm stuck on, I don't have an alternative way of presenting it because any motion is effectively to overrule a decision that the president has made.
I appreciate you, Stephen, and I just don't understand those levels of authority, so I'm not going to question them.
Okay. I am having a little trouble keeping up with where the stack is, especially with board members throwing their hands in. I think I still have the stack correctly. So we're going to move on. We're going to go to Heather without that information.
So, yeah, without the information, a whole bunch of people are going to talk about something that they don't have all the information about, which is a huge problem. I wrote about this subject earlier today, and one of the issues is that there are three different things happening. There are three different changes in this motion. So I would implore you to at least somehow separate that out. But the crux of the matter is that one of those three elements that will happen if this motion passes is that a voting right of members will become no longer protected by the section of the bylaws that currently protects them. And you are going to hear from the person who wrote the protections that this issue is protected by. And the issue is that when a person becomes a member, there's a 30-day waiting period until they can vote. And I don't know exactly how the membership secretary deals with that. My suspicion is if I submit my membership paperwork, the membership secretary, has 30 days to, maybe he'll speak to that, has 30 days to approve that. But regardless, I'm not going to vote before 30 days. So part of the bylaws has a protection for membership voting rights. An argument has been made that the fact that I only have to wait 30 days before I can vote in an election is going to go away if this passes. It's going to be moved from one section to another section where currently, without a very simple change on your part, it will become unprotected. An argument has been made that the person who put these protections in place did not intend for that to be protected, and that he only intended for what people can vote on to be protected, but not, for instance, when they can vote. So I will leave it to you to think about whether you think that when I get to vote in an election is a voting right or not. I'm pretty sure most everybody on the planet would consider whether or not I have to wait 30 days or 90 days or 180 days to be a voting right in terms of my voting rights.
Thank you. LT.
Sorry, it took a little getting in there. Okay, so you're right, Heather. I am speaking as the author of this particular provision that's being invoked, which is Article 11, Section 2. I'm going to quickly say that I do hope that when the discussion with the Affairs Attorney regarding sharing her advice is made, and when, as I predict, she'll say, well, of course you can share it. It's not confidential. That the fact that she said, of course you can share it, it's not confidential, who thought otherwise, will also be expressed to the membership. I think it's important for them to kind of observe this process. But quickly, the point of Article 11, Section 2 in the very first place was this. I was concerned that some members of the board might have the idea that we should move to a so-called professional board where there's no board elections. The current board nominates and selects new board members, and board elections just go away. Whether you think it's a good idea or a bad idea, is at least something that could happen, right? It does happen. It's a thing. The voting rights that are set forth in Article 6, Section 6A are enumerated, and they are the things you get to vote on. That's what voting rights are. They're the things you have a right to vote on. The problem is that Article 5, Section 6A was poorly drafted in that it included, along with the voting rights, what should have been in the eligibility requirements, which is the 30-day registration requirement. The idea that any board is going to start manipulating the eligibility period, the waiting period for registration in order to somehow disenfranchise people, that's fanciful. The idea that there could be a move to a professional board is not fanciful. It was a real concern. It's something that we took care of. So calling something a voting right doesn't make it a voting right. The words have meanings. And in this case, a voting right is the things you have a right to vote on. That's what it means. I'm confident that if the other attorney who was consulted had the issue addressed to them in that fashion, with that explanation, that the advice there would have been different. But again, it is unfortunate that the membership doesn't get to hear the attorney's advice. But I can tell you, voting rights doesn't mean anything but voting rights.
Okay, I'm going to ask too, in the future, references to saying, I hope they ask who and so forth are simply jabs, and we're not here to do jabs. Everyone is working in good faith, so let's please maintain that spirit. Everyone who's made a decision here, who's exercising some authority, is doing it with the best interest of the organization and its members at heart. I'm quite confident of that. John Pincus.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I originally, when I put my hand up, was going to address the fact that the language about the 30-day waiting period and its placement in the proposed motion, it makes it sound like you have to register every 30 days in advance every time you want to vote. So I hope there can be some tweaking to make it clear that that's not the case. I hope it's not the case. But now that the other discussion has ensued, it's my understanding that despite the change in the Oregon statutes that regarding the need to have a meeting, I believe the statute still requires certain topics, including any topic that abridges the rights of membership in voting in a membership organization, has to be voted on by the membership. I believe that's still present in the law. And thirdly, for a non-controversial topic or a non-confidential topic such as this, and particularly when we're talking about what people get to vote on and how they get to vote, I think the membership has the right to hear the attorney's opinion, either direct, verbatim or in summary. And I think that in a democratic organization, anything that might be construed to abridge or alter voting ability should be, any information pertaining to it should be available to the membership. So I can understand AJ's concern about getting permission of the attorney. And so I think all of this discussion leads me to believe that this item probably should wait to at least the August meeting. Thanks.
Thank you. Coyote.
Hi, thank you. So my question here, so at 14 years old currently, you get a wristband, you then start the process of you can vote, right? Right? Is that right?
Not sure. That's a tradition, apparently.
Okay, that's it. So
that's what's embedded in the bylaws.
If you change it, right, to 16, then these people who got their wristband when they were 14 or 15, all of a sudden they lose that quote unquote right that they had because the rule or the law has changed, right? The bylaw has changed. If this is sort of somewhat accurate, perhaps one could put in like one of those clauses that says, you know, it doesn't count for you guys, but people who reach the age of 16 after this period of time, then you could become eligible to vote. So anyway, those are sort of questions I had with this whole thing. And yeah, I won't comment on anything else. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Coyote. Okay, so I'm on the list now, and I'm very sorry if this is a little wonky. I've been behind this for some time. I was at the bylaws meeting in March, and I went to the attorney that I have worked with in other nonprofit projects including rewriting the bylaws of the WOW Hall for an opinion. And this has become what is very simple has become very convoluted. The bottom line is that the voting age is not in question. The only thing that I've heard run by the attorney is whether the voting age is in question or whether or not who gets to be a member is in question. The voting age was not a protected voting right. This voting right that we're talking about was enshrined in 6A and specifically protected by Article 11, Section 2. And it says existing members, new members, have to wait 30 days and then they are eligible to vote. So it's not about becoming a member, it's about people who are members, and that everyone who is a member has a right to vote 30 days afterwards. And Article 11, Section 2 says the board cannot change that without a vote of the membership. And I do believe that if you shared the legal opinion that I received on this, which matches the plain language and all of my experience in writing many, many bylaws over many years, that they will concur with that. And I don't think that that has been clearly put to the attorney. All the feedback I've got since asking for March for that attorney opinion to be vetted by our attorney indicates it has not been done in that explicit a fashion. And I am concerned that you are, in fact, violating your own bylaws. And as someone who's done a great deal of this, someone who's trying to bring some of this to the board, if you can pause on it, I can offer you multiple fixes. One fix is to simply take this piece that you're taking out of the about when a person is eligible to vote and moving it somewhere else and adding that protection to it. The other is to simply not do it. You can change the age for eligibility and just leave this till later. The third is to just put it before the membership. It's not that big a deal to do, but doing it this way is explicitly violating the bylaws. And as someone who's trying to help you with this, it's very important to me that it not be done this way. And that's my feedback for you. I'm quite confident of what the plain language of the bylaws and the motion say. It explicitly says no voting rights contained in. And in 6A, it explicitly says if you've been a member, you have a right to vote after 30 days. That's a voting right. Anyone who's been purged from the voting rolls would not disagree with that. Thank you. All right, we're on to Grumpy.
Okay, let's see if I can do this quickly. Not sure I agree with you, Stephen, but transparency is important for the membership, and confidentiality seems to be more important for the board than anything else other than transparency. I think I would agree with that. What LT said, you should be able to read what the lawyer said because it's obviously not confidential. So you should be able to read what the lawyer said. Otherwise, from now on, you should, every time you get a lawyer opinion, you should be asking the lawyer, well, can we let the membership know about this? And the membership should be knowing about this. That's the transparency. I agree with what John Pincus said. If what we're saying is everybody has to register before every, when I read this, it was a little unclear. So I assume that doesn't mean that every election, everybody has to register again. And the bylaws should have a change. I'll be real quick. The bylaws should have an age in them for voting members. And I would say it should be 18, not 16. Thank you.
Okay, so I will ask board members to please refrain from putting your hand up till we're through with member comments. It's a little hard to keep track. And I'm going to go back to AJ. You wanted to make a clarifying point about your ruling. That
Yes,
seems
sir.
appropriate.
Yes, sir. So I just want to be clear that my objection was to read verbatim the attorney's opinion. I think we can have open discussion about what we believe that opinion is, but until we get feedback from the attorney that they approve of us reading their opinions verbatim, which we don't have precedent for, I think it's safest not to do that. The issue being is that attorneys based on information that they receive, attorneys often change their mind. If they decide, well, I didn't have that piece of information that when I made this opinion, down there on the record in front of a whole membership as making an opinion, and that they can't take back, and it's on record. And so I would really like to say I have no problem with us discussing or giving a general overview of the opinion based on our, based on whoever wants to share that. But it's the reading the opinion verbatim. I think we need permission for. So I just.
So I will say, there's, we've had a lot of discussion about what the rules are about that. There's a certain amount that's unknown at this point, but I will say that I think discussing the opinion is part of what's led to the uncertainty about, well, what exactly was the question? And so I don't know that it's going to raise any clarification. I do have another member I have two members that are asking to speak. We're coming up on 9 o'clock. I would entertain a motion to extend the meeting for 30 minutes.
I so move.
I'll second.
Moved by John Steinhardt and seconded by Lisa Parker to extend the meeting till 9:30. Is there any objection to extending the meeting? I'm kind of bypassing discussion. I'm hoping we don't have to discuss it. I don't know how my hand went up. Hearing no objection, the meeting.
I object.
You do object to extending the meeting? Okay.
Yes, I would rather table this motion till August. And rather than
Well,
continuing.
we're on extending the meeting. So
Okay, so I
there's an
object to
objection.
extending the meeting.
There's an objection to extending the meeting. I hesitate to have an extensive discussion about extending the meeting. I think we just need to go to a vote. Sandra.
I don't know if it's a yes or no, but I object to extending the meeting as well.
That's a no.
Yeah, it's a no. Okay, no.
George.
No.
Paxton.
Yes.
AJ.
No.
Lisa.
Yes.
John Steinhardt.
Yes.
Sue.
No.
John Alexander.
Yes.
Teresa Vaughn.
If I can pee, I'm a yes.
Okay. Yes, asterisk. Arna.
Okay.
No.
Kevin.
Yes.
Okay. The motion fails with Sandra, George, AJ, Sue, and Arna voting no. So the meeting is going to end in 8 minutes here. We are on this motion and we're still in member input. Okay. I'm going to go to.
Stephen,
Yeah.
I have a point of order based on what
Yeah.
AJ just said about reading the bylaws or reading the lawyer opinion or
Yeah.
summarizing them again would now be the appropriate time to make a motion.
Well,
So-
the problem is I'm in member comment and the meeting is going to run out of time. Is it a motion to table or do
It would
something
be a
else?
motion to overrule that and read the lawyer opinion.
Okay, there's a motion to overrule the president of the board. Is there a second?
I'm going to second that motion.
I already did.
Oh, you already did. Okay.
Okay. Moved by John Alexander and seconded by Lisa Parker. I will admonish that obviously any conversation about this needs to be pretty brief, be
Can I
concise.
speak to it?
Go ahead.
So I think that there's no, I understand it's not confidential, and I think I heard discussion about another lawyer opinion that was shared with some people that I don't think we've all seen that I don't want to talk about at all, but that's just so I just think it's time for the members to hear that lawyer opinion, and we own it and they gave it to us in writing, so I feel like it's okay.
Okay, is there any other, I'm going to stick with just board discussion on this. Is there any
Yeah.
other board discussion on
Yeah.
this? Please be
I just want to
concise.
say that I think as long as we don't reveal the identity of the attorney, I think that that is probably their biggest concern because they don't want to be contacted by random folks.
Understood. The attorney's name should remain confidential. I'm going to go to John Steinhardt.
I'm opposed to doing this because we are not even going to have time to vote on this bylaws change tonight. And by the time we get to our next meeting, AJ can probably have a discussion with the attorney and it will be a non-issue. So I don't think there's any hurry to do it tonight because we're basically out of time.
That is correct.
Yeah. Is there any other board discussion? I'm going to stick with board. Lisa.
I'd like to defer my comment to Stephen Dyerkoff.
Okay, so
I'm trying to, I have a good way out of this maybe.
well, hold on a sec. Hold on just a sec. So I will say that seating or deferring comment is an issue which I was hoping we would get to with training sometime. Without any time limits or other speaking rules, there is no real meaning to seating time. That said, because of the nature of the subject, I'll let Stephen speak. Go ahead.
At this point, because there are so many questions, I think it's a good motion, but I think maybe we can work on it. I'd like to recommend the board find a way to move to remand this motion back to the committee with all the questions that were asked tonight and have the committee spend some more time studying it and coming up with a different version of it with the caveat that
So I gotta say, I'm sorry, we have to stick to whether or not to overrule the decision to read the attorney thing. We're welcome to say no to that. The motion, if we run out of time, we'll simply move to the next meeting anyway. So.
Okay, I'm done then.
Okay, sorry, I'm just, Arna, do you want to speak to?
I do think that we should be able to read the attorney's answer to us because I don't think it is confidential, this particular opinion, having read it. And I do think the membership should be able to hear it. The whole thing about another lawyer is a whole other issue that I would like to discuss sometime, but not now because we don't have time. But I think that we are actually just too close to the end of our meeting to deal with this issue. And I think the whole thing at this point should be tabled to the August meeting, not to the next meeting.
So I'm gonna offer right now, because we have 4 minutes left and there has already been a vote not to extend the meeting. I am going to suggest that the motion to overrule be withdrawn and that a motion to table this till the August meeting be put in its place. Does that work for you, John Alexander? Because then
I already withdrew my second, so.
What? Yes or no? You're saying no?
Yes, I'm going to withdraw my second.
Well, basically, can you agree to the change? Is that going to work for you, John? Because then you can resolve this between now and then. There's 3 minutes left.
Well, Arna also seconded. If Arna's okay with that, I'm okay with it too.
I had seconded it.
Well, Lisa Parker had seconded actually, and she's agreed to it. I believe you've agreed to it as well, to table it to August. Correct, Lisa? Okay.
Table the reading till August.
Table the motion till August, which will let you also resolve this issue and others. I'm the one who got the second legal opinion. You're welcome to call me.
I support remanding it back to the committee. Like
okay, well, that's different from tabling it, but it doesn't prevent the committee from meeting and talking about it.
So Lisa would remove her second from reading the legal opinion.
Yes, just because we are running out of time tonight, and I think that it would be better to take a step back, take some breaths, and just be more thoughtful about it. And I think that remanding it back to the committee to work on it some more would be a good way to do it.
So I don't fall down. There are two different things here. The committee can work on it. We're minutes left, and I'm struggling against the fact that we've said no to extending. The committee, sending it back to committee is different from tabling it, but it doesn't prevent the committee from meeting and talking about it and offering recommendations, even if it's not sent back to committee. So we need one motion, whether it's to send it back to committee or to table it, and decide that that's what we're talking about, and then talk about it and resolve it in the next 120 seconds.
I move to table it until August.
Okay, and
Second.
seconded by Teresa? moved by John Alexander, second by John, which means we've withdrawn the overruling motion, which
Okay, John Alexander didn't move anything on that,
Right.
but I will remove my overruling motion to help move this thing along.
Okay. But did you move then to table it till August? I thought you said you did.
No, I did.
Okay. So John Steinhardt moves to table it to August. Teresa Vaughn seconds it. Is there any other conversation about this?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. We got 6.
I move that we extend the meeting for 3 minutes so we can finish the meeting and close it down.
I'm just going to take
3
discretion to say that we're going to wrap this up. I'm going to take
Okay.
discretion to just do that. So
We
don't
need,
need
we need to tell when the next meeting is and all of that.
Yeah.
I'd like to move to amend that to extending to 15 minutes so we can do a meeting evaluation.
we're
No.
okay.
Second.
Okay. Well, I can't wrap the business up if we're going to do that. You know, we've already voted no to extending the meeting once, and I'm doing my best here. But we have a motion. We can ask to entertain that afterwards. But we have a motion at the moment to table this till August. I've heard no discussion about it. Is there any objection to tabling this motion until August? Last call. And I can't quite see my chat, but I'm assuming that no one's spoken. Okay, so last call. By unanimous consent, this is tabled till next meeting, since we did not
August.
extend.
No, August.
August.
Till the August meeting. And then given that, pending business is also tabled unless you want to. So when you said extend the meeting for 15 minutes for a meeting evaluation, I trust that we're not talking about trying to take up another piece of business. So other unfinished business is also extended till the Junely meeting, where you'll have to then put it off till August.
That was my intent.
Yeah, okay. So you want to make a motion to extend the meeting for meeting evaluation?
I do.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Lisa Parker and seconded by John Steinhardt. And obviously, I'm pretty anxious about that because it's been quite the meeting. Is there any discussion about extending the meeting? Any brief discussion before we go to a vote?
I have a question, or can I put my hand up?
Just go.
So is this extending it for 15 minutes? Is this, did I hear you correctly that this would include us tabling the rest of the bylaws things until August meeting as well?
So what we're doing is we're extending the meeting specifically for the purpose of meeting evaluation. The last piece of business under tradition is put off till next meeting. The next meeting is the Junely meeting. So one thing's been moved to August. At the Junely meeting, you have the option to then move the other piece to August instead of at the Junely meeting. But it's currently, by default, just moved to the Junely meeting, and this meeting is supposed to end, so we really shouldn't be considering more motions about it. So just at the Junely meeting, just table it till August, and that's the same. Okay? That all follow? Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a comment
About extending the meeting?
Yeah. I think the problem with extending the first extending of the meeting was that it was for a particular subject. And that subject, there was something on the table that there was an idea that we were going to table it, or that motion was coming anyway. So my vote there was to not continue that conversation for another 30 minutes. So I think we got twisted in that. I do think we should end the meeting properly. And so I will vote for an extension for now 10 minutes or so for membership.
Okay, to 9:15 for a meeting evaluation. I will ask, is there any further discussion, or can we proceed? If not, last call. I'm rushing a little because I don't want to waste the time. Is there any objection? Last call for objection. Is there any board member who objects to extending till 9:15? Seeing none, by unanimous consent, the meeting is extended till 9:15 for the purpose of having a meeting evaluation. I am going to modify that a little bit to also announce just so we don't miss a beat. New business. There's a new business item of updating the goal of being carbon neutral by event by the year 2030. Lisa Parker, Sandra Bauer, Sue Theolis, AJ, John Alexander, and Teresa Vaughn listed on it. And meeting evaluation. Raise your hand in chat. Lawrence Taylor.
Hi, thanks. First and most importantly, I do want to extend an apology to AJ for appearing for expressing myself poorly in regard to his decision regarding the attorney's advice, and I did express myself poorly and inappropriately, and I do apologize for that. Secondly, it's July, L-Y, as in
Okay, yeah.
as in July. And third, and most importantly, when we started and we got to announcements, and John Steinhardt spoke up in regard to the Sunshine Database, I was hopeful for just a moment that there was going to be some taking of responsibility for the hours of struggle that coordinators are going through and some of the troubles that I've read. Very often,
I'll ask, you can say that you feel dismayed at the lack of responsibility, but let's try and keep individuals out of it.
well, it was okay.
I understand.
I'm going to say that because it was the individual statement that was made that is the issue
Understood.
for me. And I didn't see, I mean, there's some snark, but there's also a whole lot of just anguish, frankly, not merely spouting vitriol, but for an individual to suggest maybe they take their attitude elsewhere and start their own misery festival is a kind of thing that I honestly, in our worst days and evenings on the board, I never expected to hear. And I'm dismayed that we've reached that level. I can appreciate a person feeling under the gun when their professional work is attacked. Frankly, my professional reputation was publicly attacked by that very individual, and with far less factual basis. But so, it would be easy to say, well, how does it feel now? But I'm just going to say, come on, man.
Okay, so I'm still trying to, much better. I understand there's a lot of personal feelings here. The expression about what was said and how it impacts is completely valid, and I'm just trying to keep us from getting in a back and forth on it. John Alexander.
Yeah, I just I meant no disrespect, and I just felt strongly that we should read that. So, AJ, hopefully work role on that. And I saw Lisa also post something on that. I'd like to thank Craig. I know it's not the right time, but we've been trying to get to new business discussions. So I appreciate timely membership input that we can think about when we don't get the day of an election. So thanks for that. The Elections and Bylaws Committee rocket. Really appreciate what you guys are bringing to us. Stephen Dyerkoff, you bring a lot of clarity for all that stuff. And Stephen B., you got a tough job and keep it up. You're doing a good job. Whether you do it always right or not, doesn't matter. You're doing it. And so I appreciate it. And I think you do it right.
Thank you. Teresa Vaughn.
I just wanted to thank the people who spoke at the very beginning, bringing us back. I'm thinking of Hillary and Kirsten. Wow, Brian, I'm tired. About just the fact that we are all here together coming to this event that's coming up soon. And I really loved bringing us to that and remembering that we're all together and we all are trying to create this amazing event. And we do create an amazing event. And that I know that everyone on this board cares about voting rights, however else we go. And I feel like that was clear tonight. So I appreciated that piece.
Thank you. Coyote.
Thank you. I'm addressing this to the board. I hope that you realize what a gift that Steve Berkson is bringing to this process. It was, let's see, 38 years ago that I was asked to be what I understood to be the first facilitator of board meetings. And I realized then what a task it was. I think you have a real gift in what he is volunteering, bringing to y'all. And I just encourage you to to be aware of that. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tom and Aaron.
Hi. So, yes, everybody, thank you for a very interesting and instructive meeting. I would like to comment on what occurred on the board inability to have a conversation. This is something that's come up before. Maybe they could have had a conversation if they were in board discussion and not membership discussion. I'm really not certain. But the whole idea that you can't talk as a board amongst yourself in a public meeting is a problem. That was a conversation that needed to be had amongst you guys, and you should have been allowed to do that in some form or other. So maybe that could be looked at a little bit. I know there's rules and that we have to abide by those rules, but sometimes the rules are contradictory to getting the information across so that you can make a good decision. I've seen this happen before, and I'm hoping maybe you guys can work out a way to be able to get around that. But anyway, or not get around it, make it part of the process, I guess, in a different way. So thank you so much. I know everybody's tired. Good night.
Okay, I think that was it. John Steinhardt.
Yeah, I wanted to thank the members who showed up tonight to express their opinions on these motions, because they are important, and I'm really glad to see that our membership is engaged. Since we have until August before these things come back up, I don't even think we got to the contentious parts like the voting age. So please send emails to the board. Let us know what you think so that we're better informed when August comes around. Thanks.
Grumpy.
Steve, I think you do a great job. I think the board as a whole, you better try to figure out a way to make decisions rather than arguing for 2 hours plus about all this procedure or whatever you want to call it. You spend too much. I've been coming to these meetings by this board, almost all of them, and you have a hard time making any decisions. You just want to argue with each other, and that's not good for the membership. Thank you.
Paxton.
I just want to encourage people to come to the July meeting, because I really happen to like that meeting. And I think the topic that we're going to be discussing, the carbon neutral motion, is very important. I think the family is interested in that, and I hope we get some members to come talk about that at the July meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. And Lisa.
Yes, first I want to say to AJ, I just want to reiterate, I meant no disrespect in seconding the motion to read the attorney's opinion. I just felt that that was something that the members present wanted to hear, and so I went with it. Stephen, I agree that you are doing a very good job, and I apologize for any of the chaos that I contribute to. And then just for everybody else, you know, the directors and the staff, you know, we have to be here. We have to come to these meetings every month, but the members who come, you don't have to, but you do because you care. And I really appreciate everybody who comes and speaks, whether I agree with you or not. I'm just glad that that we have your engagement and that people are showing up. So thank you.
Okay, and my hand is up. I'm trying to see that I didn't miss anybody. Oh, it looks like I'm getting more. My hand is up. There's only a couple minutes left. I won't take much time. I'll just say that I do hope in future, coming after FAIR, that training and work on some rules and some processes. There's many things here for which we haven't settled on matters, and so I'm winging it the best that I can, where I think that some work could lead to much smoother process, a much clearer process about what is right or wrong. And so I'm doing my best, not all of it completely in the way I'm normally expecting to handle rules of order and systemized meetings. AJ, we have 2 minutes.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for being here tonight. I want to thank the board as a whole. We have hard discussions, but everybody's showing up for work. I appreciate you. And then I will leave you with this. Love liberates. It does not bind. Maya Angelou said it best. Love liberates. So let's love each other a little more. Love each other as we get to fair, and keep on loving each other through this process. We have hard work to do. So we got to do it. Step up. Put the swords down.
Thank you. So we have about a minute left. I'm going to ask for a little leeway to just let him go. Arna, please be concise and leave some time for leave some room for Kevin. If we go a couple minutes over, it's fine. You're muted.
Wasting time doing that.
Yep.
So sorry. I also want to thank everyone for being here. I do want to say that although I got a little frustrated in tonight's meeting, I consider that we do not argue, but that we have robust discussions. And I think that's important. You know, we disagree, and that's okay. You know, it really is. And we have, you know, as I say, robust discussions. They aren't arguments. And we all leave, you know, feeling okay with each other, which I think we do. And that's important. So I'm happy with this. We may not have gotten through the whole agenda, but we got through a bunch of it and we had some good discussions. So thank you, board members, and thank you, membership. I'm done. Kevin.
I want to say that. I just want to thank everybody for coming here, and I really want to thank the membership for speaking up. I want to thank all of our board members for speaking up, and really the bravery that happened tonight with everyone. So it's good that these things happen. It's what makes us all stronger and actually closer. And so I'm really grateful for the broad discussion. So it may look crazy, but I think we're doing great. So thank you, everyone. We'll make it happen.
Okay, there was no, I expected some change, but there was none. So the next meeting is Sunday, June 30th, 2024, 4 to 6 p.m. at Alice's Fire Pit, in person only, is the June Lee meeting, right? June Lee. Yep. All right. And with that, I assume we're going to pass on the president's piece, AJ, and close the meeting. So with that,
no, we are not. The president's going to thank you for your service, Stephen. And now you can close the meeting.
All right. Thank you very much. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.
Bye-bye. Come on.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah,
Good night. Thank
See
you.
you on site.
Thank you all.
Yep. See you at the June Live meeting, and then at the fair.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.